Yi Piu Jiu.
Cho.
Jiu. Yi Piu Jiu.
Yeah. Speak to resource person.
Warmly welcome Samadhi.
Thank you.
PhD thesis long year Mahabodhi Research Center in Israel. Trong công việc thực hiện affiliation ra bài đấy sao ạ? Cho bài giảng và mình sẽ là
Attaloka Dhamma.
và sáu nhà là rồi cao nghĩa đại về research và student là tình một cao rồi đó sáu nhà đó là đi Asuba ở xây dựng và tận này chỉ chỉ tiền rồi đi ra bài đấy sao ạ?
Dhamma pia, Dhamma. Cao mà pia, mama.
Ok sao ạ? Tuy là vấn đề bài đấy sao ạ?
Mama, Dhamma pia.
Start madadamba with the prayer. Madam, we will commence.
Yeah.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the exalted one, the perfect one, the blessed one, and the supremely enlightened Bhagavan Buddha. Today, we have the 16th series, fortnightly lecture series, and I am very happy to introduce today's resource person, and the profile is very fantastic. Madam is a multidisciplinary. Okay, it's a multidisciplinary professor, and Dr. P. Pyo Cha is a senior lecturer in Theravada studies at Shan State Buddhist University, Theinngu, Myanmar. She is also a tutor in Buddhist studies at the University of Oxford. And Madam has to is our creditor BA in Economics and Management at Oxford University. One side Economics, Management, Dhamma and Pachaya. Secular and the Dhamma. Before completing our MA in Buddhist Studies at SOAS University of London. Under PhD in Buddhist Philosophy at King's College, London, she completed in 2014. PhD, doctoral degree. She has undertaken meditation practice with different meditation traditions in Myanmar since 2005. That means to say 18 years, 2005 to 2023 years. So it is a long experience, okay, knowing about the different types of meditational practices practiced in Myanmar with a lot of traditions, etc., and comparing the studies, meditation techniques, all culminating into Nibbana, finally. She also teaches Vipassana meditation in Budapest, Hungary. And today we have with us Madam as resource person to talk on the sound of breath, how the breath, sound of the breath in Sunlun and Theinngu meditation traditions of Myanmar. Okay, that is the topic today, the sound of the breath. Okay, according to Sunlun and Theinngu meditation traditions of Myanmar. And therefore, on behalf of the Mahabodhi Research Center and homage to Triple Gem, homage to Acharya Buddha Rakita Bante, fondly known as Bada Bante, and all the Bhikkhu Sangha here at Mahabodhi Society, Bengaluru, and in Mahabodhi Society, Mahabodhi Research Center is a wing, part, most happening a wing of Mahabodhi Society, where we are offering the PhD program, also diploma in Buddhist studies, as well as a certificate course in Buddhist studies, and many Upasakas Upasikas, lay persons are taking a benefit of Dhamma in the Mahabodhi Research Center as well as Mahabodhi Society, Bengaluru, India. And today it is very our great fortunate. We are very fortunate to listen to the different facets of Dhamma. One such thing is how the sound of breath matters. We will learn from Dr. Piopia Cha from Myanmar. And I welcome you wholeheartedly on behalf of Mahabodhi Research Center and the director of Mahabodhi Research Center, Venerable Buddhadatta Banteji, and all Bhikkhu Sangha here, Shayale, on behalf of Shayale and Administrator Sharat and all the monks here. Okay, and the listeners online who are online. Okay, all the listeners, the Dhamma friends, Kalyana Mitas, I welcome wholeheartedly everyone for this today's fortnightly session. Now it is over to Dr. Piopia Cha. Cha. It is over to you, madam, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this seminar or lecture series. And I would also like to thank Suminda for continuously kind of inviting me to be part of the forum and various groups and ongoing Dhamma discussions. It's an honor to be here, and also welcome everyone. So I will go straight into the topic of my talk today. It's as you can see on the slide. I hope that the title is The Sound of the Breath, and I will come back to why the title is named like that. But here, in this talk, what I want to focus on is two Burmese meditation masters and the way they the life and the practice of them. But before we do that, the outline, as you can see here, I would like to give you an overview of meditation masters in Myanmar, at least as we know it in the scholarship. When I say scholarship, I mean scholarship written in English language, in the English language, and part of that, I'm going to be presenting my ongoing research on a more diverse tradition of meditation traditions in Myanmar, and then going on to Sunlun Seattle and then Theinngu Seattle. And then finally, a little bit about Wizodia Seattle, who was my teacher. So let's hope that we can actually cover a lot these topics in 45 minutes, I will say. So in scholarship, when we kind of think about and when we look at the scholarship on the whole, people have been writing about meditation masters in Myanmar, and as you can see here, this is a kind of an overview of what has been written about. So we can see that Lady Seattle, a very famous Lady Seattle, Unyana, he and Mulamingon Seattle, Jitawon, Mulamingo, Jitawon Seattle, these two figures, they are known to be the founders of what we call Burmese Vipassana movement. Of course, when scholars talk about the founders, they are just highlighting kind of the key persons there, but it doesn't mean that there were not other meditation masters and various other teachers going on. So, but what we can see in the scholarship is they start to trace the lineage of Lady Siaro's and his disciple, so Sayadaji, Anagan Sayadaji. And then from there, we can see Siaji Ubakin and SM Goengaji as well. So you can see here the lineage that meditation tradition has been kind of passed down through Lady Siaro, Anagan Sayadaji, and then Ubakin, and then Ugoenga. And as we all know, as an Ugoenga's meditation center all over the world, and Siaji Ubakin's meditation center as well. We have one in the UK, for example. And then we look at Mula Mingon Chitawan Siaro's lineage, if you like. And we can see Mahasi Siaro also studied a little bit or meditated under Mula Mingon Siaro as well. So, of course, Mahasi Siaro, like many others, he went to other meditation masters as well. But we all know that the meditation tradition started by Mahasi Siaro. So Mahasi meditation centers, and in Burmese we call Yeta, in Myanmar as well as in other countries. So we can see that scholars have been writing about these figures. And then we come to Mogo Siaro as well. Mogo Siaro, in scholarship, his teaching and his methods is very little is known about that. As far as I know, there are only two kind of two sources, as it were, in academic context, where Mogo Siaroji's teaching and his life is has been briefly discussed. And then Pa'al Siaro, of course, Pa'al Siaro has he himself published many books in English as well as in Burmese. In terms of scholars writing about his life and his practice and so forth, again, it's as far as I know, I think it's very few has been done on his teaching methods and techniques and so forth. So this is just to give you an overview of what has been happening in the literature. But the point that I want to move on here is to look at a wide range of different methods, as well as founding figures, meditation masters in Burmese meditation traditions. You know, when I mention Burmese meditation tradition, it just means that meditation traditions thriving in Myanmar since the late 19th century. So we can see from, Lady Siaro, this is just a kind of chronologically arranged, and it doesn't really kind of mean that, one tradition is better or better than another. It's what I want to look at is the timeline as well, and the progression of meditation traditions, how they evolve over time. So Lady Siaro, and then we have Jamban Siaro. Some of these Siaro's meditation techniques, practice, and life, we know very little. I'm at the beginning of researching their life and practice, but I haven't got so far in this research yet. And then we have Mula Mingon Siaro, and then Nagan Sayadaji, and then Munyan Siaro as well. He also wrote Patana and Vipassana, a book on Patana and Vipassana. And I briefly mentioned his work in my PhD thesis. And then Sunlun Siaro. And then we have Webu Siaro, which we saw here, Webu as well, another meditation master. And then Tangpulu Siaro. And then we have Uba Ken, Mogo Siaro, and Chao Tembo Siaro. Chao Tembo Siaro's teachings, it was it was under Vinitia case, what we call Vinitia case, like Mogo Siaro as well, Kattewan Siaro, Mahazi Siaro, Theinngu Siaro, and Mount Hamyezin Siaro, and finally Pa'al Siaro. So these meditation masters, they in one way or another, they ended up having their own meditation traditions, and that was kind of the main figure. Of course, apart from these meditation masters and teachers, there are other teachers as well. So you know, gradually I'm kind of building up a list and a kind of an overview of where we are. What if we look at in terms of textual basis, in terms of how they combine theory and practice, we can see, say, for example, Ledi Siaro, he draws quite a lot on Abhidhamma and canonical texts. Mula Mingo Siaro's a lot of emphasis on Mahasatipatthana. And then Mogo Siaro, Paticca Samuppada, and also other teachings from the Sutta Pitaka, and so forth. Notice that Sunlun Siaro and Theinngu Siaro, they haven't got any textual basis in terms of the you know, their teaching and their practice. I will discuss that later. We will see when we look at why that is the case. And then, so this is, I just want to mention Gustav Hoffmann PhD thesis, which I think is one of the best overview of Buddhism in Myanmar, you know, in modern period. And he actually highlights a detailed analysis of meditation lineages in Myanmar. So if you're interested in this topic, you can Google Hoffmann and just type in meditation or Burmese Buddhism. It will come up on Google. So now I want to, having kind of looked at an overview of meditation, a range of meditation masters in Myanmar, I want to focus more on Sunlun Siaro's, and then we will talk about the Theinngu meditation traditions. Sunlun Siaro and like I said, Sunlun Siaro and Theinngu Siaro, their tradition actually stand out from other tradition to an extent, because both Siarojis, they didn't have scripture learning background, and their teaching and their meditation practices came from their own practice, the way that they understood the Dhamma. So just to give you an overview of Sunlun Siaroji's life story. He was born in Upper Burma, and his name was Ujordin. And when he was young, he was sent to a monastery for education, you know, like any other boys would have been sent to monasteries for education. But he came out with very little literacy, and he became a farmer, and then he was married, and then he was just being a layman and householder life. But at one point, his business, his farming business, started to pick up, and he became quite well off and quite wealthy. By that time, he was kind of he developed this strong sense of fear of death, partly because in Burmese culture and Burmese tradition, people believe that if you're doing quite well in terms of business and prosperity, there's something bad might happen. So you know, we believe in this kind of good and bad coming together as well. So at that time, Ujodin, he felt this strong sense of fear of death. And that's when he started asking about what to do about it, and whether meditation might help, and so forth. And then he asked, you know, that whether people who, or a person who doesn't really understand the teachings in terms of text and variety, whether one can undertake the practice. The answer was yes, you can practice. You don't need to know the text. So he started practicing mindfulness of breathing on his own. He was very mindful of you know, whenever he did his daily activities in terms of farming and things like that, he tried to build a very strong sati and samadhi, so mindfulness and concentration. And according to his biography, he attained that stage of liberation as a layman. And then his, of course, Q&A with educated monks, the final point is once he got the final stage of liberation, according to his biography, various educated monk kind of asked him his experience and how he understood the Dhamma and so forth. So this kind of Q&A session were happening or happened. So this is an overview of Sunlun Sialoji's life story. So let's look at a little bit in terms of the way he practiced. The way he practiced was, like I said, try to build sati, so mindfulness, and samadhi, concentration. And he was started with noting the in-breath and out-breath, and then he moved to kind of awareness of the touch of the breath. So that is slightly important step, because it's not just knowing the breath in and out, is the touch. And then, so guarding this awareness of the touch with sati. So that's what he experienced, and also he taught in this way. So what that means is, when the breath comes in, it touches the nostril, the tip of the nostril, and then you have this kind of sense consciousness, what we call sense consciousness, just awareness of the touch, and then you have to be mindful of that sense consciousness. So in Myanmar we will call it ti, di, the di. So the touch, di is awareness, sense consciousness, and the di is sati, mindfulness. So establishing this kind of these 3 steps in daily activities, in that way he developed a very kind of strong sati and samadhi. So that, you know, and he went through various stages in terms of the practice. In in the article that I wrote, I published in 2019, I also described three steps in this way. So touch and sense consciousness. One must be rigorously mindful of these two. When there is touch, sense consciousness arises. When we guard and watch the sense consciousness of the object, whatever that touching, with mindfulness, our job is done. So Sunlun Sayadaw in his approach, he emphasized this a lot. You might be wondering, in terms of the practice, the breath, mindfulness of the breath, how would how would a practitioner started out in this Sunlun meditation tradition would practice? They are following, or the practitioner who goes to Sunlun Meditation Center, they will start with quite a strong rapid rhythmic breathing technique, which I will explain in more detail when I talk about Theinngu Sayadaw's practice. So now let's look at Theinngu Sayadaw's life first, and then we will look at his practice. So again, Theinngu Sayadaw, but they are very similar in terms of having a lay background and no kind of scriptural learning, Pariyati background. Sunlun Sayadaw and Theinngu Sayadaw, they are very similar. One kind of thing that stand up from for Theinngu Sayadaw is he was married 4 times. So he what happened was the first 2 marriages that he had, they ended up quite badly. One, if I remember correctly, I think it might be one of the wives also died, and also and then the other one, then the second marriage broke down, and the wife and the child, they left. And then he got married again, and then he met his 4th wife again. So he had this kind of very household life. And then he was also a robber. And again, like Sunlun Sayadaw, he had a strong fear of death because he had this near-death experience in one of the robberies that he carried out. So again, various similarities. And then after having this strong sense of fear of death, he thought, well, I better do something. And so he started practicing meditation. And by chance, he came across Sunlun Sayadaw's method in a book, and he followed Sunlun Sayadaw's method. Before he did that, he was living with his wife in one in Yangon and another one in his own village. So he then went to the wives and said that, well, now I'm going to do meditation. So, the wives, they can remarry if they want to. So he kind of became quite distant, and just went into his village monastery to do meditation practice. Again, as a layman, he attained the 3rd stage of liberation according to his biography. Very similarly to Sunlun Sayadaw, he had question and answer session with educated monks, finding out his understanding of the Dhamma and his meditative experiences. So this is a very brief overview of what the kind of things that he did before he became a monk, and then and you know, when he started out practicing meditation. So in terms of meditation practice, like I said, when he decided that he would go and practice, he went to his home village, monastery, and he undertook 9 precepts, and then he became kind of vegan, relying on beans and peas, and then he was meditating long hours. So this is the schedule that he followed. You can see quite a lot of meditation practices and quite long hours. You can see here. So for example, 6 to 9:30, for example, meditation. So he followed that kind of very strict structure. In terms of practicing, he was doing a lot of practicing meditation in sitting position, and strong. He did strong rapid breathing, and but of course he adjusted the breathing rate. So the point is that when he experienced kind of intense vedana, intense sensation, the breathing became faster and a bit shallower. And then when he was experiencing kind of weak feelings or weak vedana, he was following slower and deeper. So, but he adjusted his breathing rate in order according to the kind of vedana that he was experiencing. Again, he said that it was to increase sati and samadhi. So you can see, you know, the main focus here is to develop these mental qualities. So if we then look at his overall practice and the path to liberation, he highlighted 2 things. The first is to overcome wrong view, deity, and the second is craving, dhamma. So and his path actually is kind of tailored towards that. So what are the 3 key steps? When I analyze his practice using his Dhamma talks and the books written by his disciple, what I found was that he was basically following 3 key steps. The first step was to overcome painful physical sensation, because if you have painful physical vedana, you have this kind of wrong view that, you know, the body, the whole body is you, and you're in pain. I'm in pain. My legs hurt, and you know, that kind of deity. So wrong view, holding the whole body and mind as your own. So he overcame that, and then he moved. His meditation kind of brought him to Asuba Meditation until everything turned to dust. So Asuba Meditation was part of his practice. Asuba Meditation means the impurity of the body. And then he focused on the final stages. He focused on latent defilements or kilesa. So if we then look at these 3 stages in a little bit deeper way, we can see that what he was doing was he was trying to kind of bring the mind, or bring the chitta to the present moment, and developing sati and samadhi. And the way that he did was using dukkha vedana, dukkha vedana as in kayika dukkha vedana, which is the bodily painful sensation. So at the beginning of his practice, he was feeling very strong, intense sensation. And as the Samadhi became stronger, he was able to stay with intense tension and intense feelings, vedana. And so the mind actually doesn't wander away anymore. It's beginning to settle down within the body, at the nostril, and with the vedana. So the mind became kind of settled down and developing concentration or samadhi on that. So he became, he could sit longer hours, and then he was able to observe different kinds of vedana. And during that time, although I'm talking a lot about vedana and physical sensation, he was also following the strong breathing breath, strong, fast, rapid kind of breathing technique. And he was following that all the time. And using that, the samadhi became very strong, to the extent that he started experiencing delight, piti. And then he had this kind of visual experiences. So mental images from the past came, also mental images from the present time, or the being able to see future as well. So according to his biographies, he was able to do various kind of being able to see the future and things like that, which normally comes as as one develops strong samadhi. So, but he didn't stop there in terms of the practice. He continued using the strong rapid breathing technique, and he started to kind of seeing the asubha, so his body parts and the ugliness of his body parts, as well as others. So he started seeing these Asuba Kammatthana or Asuba meditation. So such as bloated stomach, smelly liquids and foam coming up from the mouth, maggots, and seeing the maggots, smelly liquids, that kind of different stages of Asuba meditation. And then another thing that developed during the practice, as well as in daily life, is he started to see the signs of Asuba. So he couldn't, he has this kind of in his mental eye, as it were. He started seeing ugliness in everything that he did in daily life, to the extent that whenever he looks at, say, for example, trees or any pagodas and things like that, he would see them in terms of decay and in terms of ugliness. So his Asuba meditation became quite strong. And he couldn't eat or sleep after seeing these, and then he developed kind of the wish to escape from them. And so this is a way that I kind of analyze his the progression along his path. And it reminds me of kind of like peeling lotus petals, or sometimes, another imagery is peeling the onions, because every stage that you progress along, it becomes more refined and more subtle. Okay, so if we just look and focus on the Asuba Nimitta, for example, he started seeing himself as Asuba, and then his former wives and other other beings, other things as Asuba. And then he, like I said, he developed this desire to escape from this. So this is like an aversion to Asuba Nimitta, Asuba Namik. And in a way that is rooted in dosa, because it's the hatred. So because it's an aversion, you don't want to do it, you have this desire to escape from it. And then, so what happened is, how he overcame this Asuba Nimitta. The way he overcame Asuba Nimitta is through seeing these body parts in terms of 4 elements, 4 dhatus, and then 5 aggregates. So he then moved on to these kind of meditation practices. So for example, 4 elements, when he started seeing, during his practice, when he started seeing, for example, the blood coming out or the liquids coming out, he would contemplate it as the water elements. And when he sees, say, bones, he would contemplate it as earth elements, so Batawi Dadu. So in terms of those things, and then he moved on to the 5 aggregates as well. So you know, the in terms of the Vedana, not wanting to feel it, these things like that. So he moved on there. And then he overcame perception of the Asuba Nimitta as well. So this is in terms of how the sanya, so our perception, is causing this kind of aversion. So he overcame that, and that's, you know, that's the kind of different stages. Finally, he used cause and effect in order to overcome these kind of perception, sanya. He realized that the mind kind of became kind of, to an extent, quite attached to Asuba Nimitta, Asuba Namik, and causing more suffering. So he then realized, and he contemplated using cause and effect to overcome that kind of very subtle, very refined sanya. So this is kind of Theinngu Sayadawji's practice. Of course, when we analyze and when we look at his teaching in his Dhamma talks and so forth, he always highlights, or we can always see that the cause and effect, how he talks about those things, and also he practice, his understanding is based on that, basically cause and effect. So which is of course another way to put it would be Paticca Samuppada, dependent origination. So this is his Theinngu Sayadawji's practice. Let's look briefly in terms of the Wisodaya Sayadaw Uttiri Dhamma, who was my teacher. He passed away last year in December, and yes, I practiced under him, and he also practiced under Theinngu Sayadawji when he was only 24. Again, he led kind of householder life. He was married. He was also a civil servant in Yangon, and he was ordained, and then he disrobed, and then he ordained again. So he was kind of practicing throughout since he was 24. He practiced meditation on and off quite a fair bit, and in about 20 years ago, he founded Vizodia Theinngu Dhamma Center in Pye, or formerly known as Rome. And it's in the north of Yangon. And again, so I just want to highlight his Dhamma Center here. So in 2008 and also 2020, and also various other times, I became a nun, Siali, and I practice meditation at that Dhamma Center. So I just want to highlight briefly in terms of the technique. I think I have time to go over that. So what happens when you started out in a Theinngu meditation center? For the beginner, you start with strong, rapid, rhythmic breathing. The posture is very important. You have to sit quite comfortably, straightforward posture, not too tight, not too loose. Checking posture from time to time is also very important, but you cannot change your posture. And normally you have to sit for 2 hours. One session will be 2 hours long. And so the main point here is that you are establishing awareness using the breath. That's the main thing. So bring the awareness to the nostril area. Be aware of the breath, or the flow of the breath, or the touch of the breath. It doesn't matter, because individually we are different from we have different experiences. For some, the breath would be the breath on the whole would be easier to follow, or the flow of the breath would be easier to follow. So it depends on your parami, on your kind of background and your experience. The breathing rate should be 2 or 3 times faster than normal. It has to be rhythmic breathing, meaning that the equal amount of in breath and out breath. Say if your breathing is not rhythmic, meaning that say your out breath is longer, then you're going to get very tired very easily. If your in breath is longer, you are going to hyperventilate yourself. So that is very important. The rhythmic breathing stable rate, so it has to be stable. You can't just start with very heavy and very fast and then you slow down and then you start again. That's not a good idea. Breath from the nose or the chest area, not from the stomach, because if you're breathing from the stomach, you're going to get very tired very easily. Again, you might get muscle pain and things like that. The number 7, the point 7 is very important also, because it's about sometime when we are doing this kind of intense focus activities, your face, your eyes areas, your hands can go kind of a lot of tension can appear in those areas, and make sure that you don't actually tensing any body parts unnecessarily. Remove glasses, that's very basic. Do not stop or start the breathing again, and then not to move the body or the head or open the eyes during the practice. So this is very basic breathing technique, and what kind of things are expected within the session. Here I want to highlight a little bit how Theinngu meditation session is different from, say, Sunlun practice. In Sunlun, as far as I know, you're sitting for 1.5 hours, so 90 minutes. The first 45 minutes, you're doing the breathing, this kind of strong, rapid breathing. And then the second part, the second 45 minutes, you're observing bodily sensation. So you let go of the breath and you just focus on it. In Wixodia, they're in meditation center. They like Theinngu theology, the first Theinngu theology. Wixodia Seattle also said that we are using the breath as a tool to kind of the breath is used throughout. That's what I want to say. So whether you are a beginner or whether you have some experience or whether you are an advanced practitioner, it doesn't matter. You are using the breath as your home. So whenever you have whenever your meditation gets stuck, you always go back to the strong breathing technique, because in that way you can come out from whatever the stage that you are stuck or you are at. Sometimes too much, say for example, too much samadhi, you can get into what we might call, some people call yogi sleep. So going into that kind of mode, you can come out from that using the strong rhythmic breathing. So that is in terms of the technique. A little bit of conclusion, just a few points that I want to highlight. The first is that you can see here, in Myanmar, we have many different meditation traditions and many different meditation teachers. And what that means is that in terms of meditation objects, the kind of things that we use during the sitting is also a variety of meditation objects used. So the breath is one of the most popular ones that we use. We sing Asuba Nimitta or Kasina, for example. Paul's theology in his tradition, because he's following very closely to Visuddhimagga, the path of purification manual. So he would recommend using Kasina objects. And then we have a variety of teaching techniques as well. So I'm aware of different style of teaching at different Theinngu meditation centers in different places. So it just, what it means is that according to each teacher and each practitioner, that the techniques, teaching techniques and also meditation techniques can also vary. And depending on one's parami, profession, the type of experience that we feel also vary. But the final point that I want to make here is, as we practice more and more, what we experience is more refined Dhamma. And so it's like every time we peel off an outer layer, we might have, if you think about an onion, onion has thin layers which are kind of quite sticky to peel off. So it's like peeling off the defilements, and it gets more refined and refined. And then until we realize that there is nothing. So this is the teaching about, say, if you like, anatta, So you realize that, okay, there's nothing inherent in us. So that kind of realization. And slide one final point is the selected bibliography. So this is just an kind of a selection of meditation of the works published on meditation traditions. So for example, here I mentioned Gustav Hoffmann's PhD thesis, Tradition of Buddhist Practice in Burma. Very, I highly recommended this one. Eric Brown, his work is on Lady Seattle, you can see here. Ingrid George, this is Mahasi, so Burma's Lee meditation movement. And this is the conference paper that I gave. So these are kind of give you an overview of the sources the kind of sources that you might be interested in. So I'm going to stop here now and slideshow. And yes, I thank you very much.
Oh, excellent presentation and insightful one. Very beautiful on different meditation techniques practiced in Myanmar by different teachers. Okay, over a period of time. Lineage is also there.
Yes.
So it is very excellent. Okay, the techniques are taught. And one practical one, these techniques are very practical and you can see the results for yourself by practicing these methods.
Sorry?
By practicing these methods and the techniques, and the techniques are unique to each teacher and the practitioners.
Yes.
Practitioners. So these are the methods available for the purification of mind.
Yes.
Purifying the mental defilement.
Yes.
So now let us, the floor is open to audience for question and answer. If you have any clarification, okay, feel free and ask. Otherwise, they can drop a message. Message also. Message. Kindly share your email. Kindly share your email that you will share, Sharat. New Kortira? Okay. That is any clarifications needed?
Or anybody wants to go and practice meditation at Myanmar. So for that connection, they might need the teachers present the address. That Dr. Pifuto might be very happy to give and to help for that, because it is really great presenting, which is really very great teacher who are very famous and who have been teachers so many meditation practitioners very practically. Like Lady Seattle, they are very well educated and very well learned, and having wrote more than 100 treatises like a Lady Seattle. But like as Dr. Pipucho have present, Sunlun Seattle, Theinngu Seattle, those are like very rare and hard to learn the Dhamma, means like theoretically. But according to their past perfection, parami, they have been experienced practically, and they even could teach to reach out many beings to understand the real Dhamma in Myanmar.
those are really very great research work, teacher. I'm so happy
Thank
and
you.
grateful to you. And she herself been also practicing, and she herself done all the research, because those are something like survey method. We cannot do any measurement who are more higher and noble than us. But according to her experience and question and answer to the educated monk who are staying nearby them, who are practicing nearby them. So with that, we can have more inspiration to practice. Even as a lay person, we can practice day-to-day life, as Dr. P. Future told, to peel out our defilements petal by petal. Like, we don't know which method are going to support us to realize the Dhamma. So any method, any types of practicing, we have to try to learn it, trying to experience it. From there we will get. Even the Buddha has expounded 40 methods of samatha meditation, tranquility meditation methods, as everybody have different temperament, different character, different background, and a different charita, yes, and different paramita, which they have been fulfilled in the past life. So those are very, very important. So we should learn every method, whatever the condition is there for us, as much as possible. Now we came to know all those technique through with the Sama Dr. P. Future. So for that, we are very happy and appreciated all your research work and sharing your knowledge, experiencing knowledge, and also research knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So
Thank you,
that's-
Sir.
Any question from the audience?
From the audience, any question written in the message?
Sir, I have a question. Can I ask?
Pardon?
I have a question, sir. Can I ask?
Yeah, please proceed.
Yeah, first of all, Namo Buddhaya.
Remember
And I really appreciate Dr. Chow's presentation here. I have this question. As you mentioned, like we need to practice different kind of meditation, right? Is it really good to practice different kind of meditations, or should we just stick on to one kind, like Vipassana as taught by Goenkaji, or do we need to try like Theinngu Sayadaw meditation?
So I'm going to give you kind of two types of answer to that question. The first one is from an academic point of view. There is a debate, not just in Theravada countries, but also in Tibetan traditions or Tibet, where the practitioner, they say that is it recommendable that we follow different methods and different teachings or different style of practice? And there is a debate about that, and it seems that there's no clear answer to that. The second approach, or the second type of answer that I will give is based on what my teachers have said. One of my teachers, you probably have heard of. He's Asuba Seattle. So Asuba Seattle, Venerable Dhammasami, who founded Shan State Buddhist University. So I started practicing meditation under his guidance, and from the beginning he said, try out different methods or different traditions, because you won't know, and also it's also about not getting attached to one tradition, because when we become attached to one tradition or one types of things, it's still an attachment, and with attachment what happens is we get pride, we get mana, we get conceit. So this kind of personalization of various techniques or things like that, and of course the Buddha taught these meditation objects and techniques to move away from attachment. So perhaps it might be a good idea to try out different things or different techniques and things like that. But of course, as you practice more and more, you will know what would suit you. And then you can make an informed decision about, okay, this method seems to be okay, working for me, then I might just stick with that. But then again, as you practice more and more, you might get more kind of attachment comes up or things like that happen again. Then you might have to go and search a new teacher or a new technique. So in the Sutta Pitaka, we find this very famous example or famous imagery about the raft. So once you use the raft, you have to let go of the raft as well. So that would be one way to think about that as well.
Thank you, Dr. Chia. And to add on to that, could you please clarify briefly, aren't we diverting ourselves following many techniques, like when we try to find the techniques that best suits us, aren't we diverting our resources, like our energies, to learn the different techniques? Or is it helping us?
I'm not quite sure about, I'm not quite clear about what you are asking. Sorry, could you?
I'll repeat it. I'll repeat it. And aren't we diverting ourselves following many techniques? Are we diverting?
Are we diverting?
Yes. Is it not good to stick on to one particular technique? Like we, through the whole 1 hour, we just saw two venerables, Venerable Kavi and Venerable Ukata. You mentioned they didn't even learn text, right? They didn't even go through text. They just practice. So, just to follow, is it good enough to follow one tradition?
So I mean, if we think about kind of in terms of the practice itself, when I say try out different techniques or different tradition, in reality, we would be going to particular kind of meditation retreat, for example. And then so for example, based on my own experience, I practice at Asang Goengaji's meditation center and here in the UK. I think I went there twice and follow the teachings there, the technique there, and it was very very fruitful, and then those retreats they helped me a lot. And then I went back to Theinngu meditation center and practiced that as well. So if you're talking about that kind of trying out and different techniques, I think that is how I would describe it. If I understand your question correctly, are you talking about within one sitting or one practice?
No, doctor. Like throughout life, as a layperson, we try to So
yes. Go on.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You can please continue.
Right. So yes, and in that sense, so based on my experience and the kind of thing that I have experienced, I have also practiced under Mogul Seattle technique as well, again, which was very helpful and very fruitful in their own way, because you get a deeper understanding of the Dhamma. So basically, if we look at whatever the technique that we are using, one of the main aim of the practice is to develop sati and samadhi, which I mentioned in my presentation throughout, sati and samadhi. So say if you are using the breath, for example, say, just a normal breath, then it's okay. The aim is to develop sati and samadhi. Or if you're using Mahasi method and using the focusing on your stomach abdomen, rising and falling, again, the main aim is to develop sati and samadhi and all those other qualities, mental qualities. So those are the important one, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. I appreciate the answer. Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I can see that this kind of meditation currently, I have to say, with add a note to it. Currently, Theinngu teachers that I know of from Theinngu tradition, they mainly teach in Burmese at the moment, in the Burmese language. So it's very very difficult to find a place where they can use English. But having said that, when I teach in Hungary, Budapest, I teach Theinngu method, and I teach it in English. So yes, perhaps you should come to Hungary to join the retreat.
Is there any way can we join you online, Doctor?
Currently, we are not doing anything yet. I'm not sure, because the group that they want to do it in person. So yeah.
Okay. Definitely hoping to attend one of your sessions and learn from you one day.
Yes, yes. When it happens, yeah, I will inform Sumendra. So he will be able to coordinate. Yes.
Thank you, Doctor.
Honorable Speaker, whether these techniques are applicable to two-rooted individual. We have a three-rooted individual and
Yes.
two-rooted individual. For two-rooted individual, it is said that meditation practice is very difficult.
Yes.
Dvi-etuka and ti-etuka, Puggala.
Yeah. I think it's in a way it's for an ordinary person, we or Putujana, we wouldn't really know what kind of person we would be. So the hope is that we will be able to the best thing that we can do is to try it. That would be my answer. Otherwise, we won't know until we try it. And in the Sutta Pitaka, we have stories about a monk who is not quite sharp in terms of intellectual thinking and so forth, but the Buddha managed to teach him, and he became Arahat. So we won't know until we try. That would be, yeah.
Dvi-etuka, Puggala, they never turn into monastery. And between these two venerable Sayada, Sunlun Sayada and Theinngu Sayada, there was a strong fear of death.
Mhm.
The strong fear of death in case of Venerable Ukkata, is it because of foremarriage
No, because he had this
and robbery also?
yes, in one of
Akushala.
the robberies,
Robbery.
yes, he went to rob a house, and the owner of the house almost chopped off his head with an axe. So but during that robbery, he he got injury on his head, and then only he realized that, you know, he had this kind of what we call samvega, so the urgency to practice. In Burmese pronunciation, it would be Dhamma. He had this kind of the urgency to practice spiritual practices. Yeah.
According to my idea, okay, I think
Mhm.
the past Parami also might have been supporting at that time.
Yeah.
So even Drihetuka or Tihetuka, no matter, we have to practice, keep on practicing that self.
But I have read in commentary, any amount of effort you do, Dvihetuka people,
We're not able to
it
attain
is not
this
possible
life.
to
Yes,
meditate.
yes, that is
Only the Tihetuka people can meditate.
Yes.
Why,
Means like that, sir.
that
Drihetuka
Chanda
person-
will also come.
Drihetuka person practicing it will become parami, not like he will realize in this very life, but the seed will be there, means the cause will be there for the next life.
Dana and
Become
Shila.
a Drihetuka. Not only Dana Shila, sir, practicing the like listening Dhamma, that is also a kind of
Pariyatti.
Pavana, yes, listening Dhamma, learning the Dhamma, associating with the good people, wise people, and discussion, listening.
They
the
will never
teachings.
come. They won't come. The
That is
tendency is
even-
such that
Even
Anusaya,
even Tihetuka person, they won't come out because there are many Tihetuka person who are very much far from the Dhamma.
Yes, that's my point. Because we don't know in terms of, you know, Sunlun Theology and Theinngu Theology, in terms of worldly logia knowledge, you know, literacy and maths or whatever. They didn't have any. But they put their mind and their practice, and it seems that their parami came to fruition in this in this life, you know, in their final life. Yeah.
Yes, sir. In Myanmar, before education was very, very poor. So when we went to learn the education, to read, to write, to practice, so they have to approach to the monastery. So the parents, they used to send their children to the monastery, like Sunlun Thearo, Theinngu Thearo, they also have been sent to the monastery, but they are very unhappy at there to study all those things. So they used to run away from the monastery. In the young
Yes.
age, yeah. After that, they become like they drop out from the school and they become a farmer, and they become like some other types of robber, like that. They are
Not in the intellectual field. I mean, it's like education field. They are not in that. But due to past their parami, even though they are not in that education field, they are not knowledgeable person. They don't know anything about the intellectual knowledge, literature views. But when their parami is the mature, when it is coming the right time, though they have some like Theinngu Saro, he might have eaten lots of akusala in this present life, but there are supported karma which he has been fulfilled in the past life. That is supporting, and when the householder is about to kill him, when he has cut his hand and when he has to get hurt, the sense of urgency is coming, like samveganyana. Yes, sir. Normally people won't come. But for them, as they are very special, which they might have been fulfilled all the Sila, Samadhi, Panya, Sikha in the past life, Parami, it is coming and supporting at that point, at that moment. So they came to understand, oh, I have to die, not only this life, many, many lives, the death will come and approach me. So that sense of urgency coming to him, and he find out the way to come out of that death.
And another canonical story would be Angulimala. So Angulimala also kind of had that kind of parami, and then that's why he was able to attain arahantship under the guidance of the Buddha. So we can see that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We have a question, I think, Lakshmi.
Lakshmi, go ahead.
Yes, good
Uh-huh.
evening. So the thing is that what we understood by your lecture, by your presentation, that without formal education, if one is really earnest, when his heart cries, that is to say, the fear of death is there. When it comes to the heart, definitely they will go to that way to come out of that fear of death. They follow this kind of thing. This is very useful. This is very practical. And there is no need to take formal education also. So there are many incidents. Just now we have heard that, and there are many people also. Many sages are also like that. Like that Valmiki we hear in our Hindu the stories. So so education is in no way it is helpful for one to realize his own her own real thing. So whatever the presentation you showed, no, this is really very good to follow, to progress in the path, to know ourselves, to come out of the fear. That's what I feel.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you very much. But I want to learn that. I want to practice that. So if my karma leads me to go there, I will definitely learn that one.
Yes. Another point that I want to add that there is in terms of intellectual knowledge is that in some meditation traditions in Myanmar and also in Thailand and in Cambodia, as far as I know, probably in Sri Lanka as well, so Theravada countries, some meditation teachers they will say that a lot of intellectual learning could become an obstacle
Yes.
to the practice.
Yes.
Partly because of the kind of thing that I mentioned, which is the pride. So the negative mental state, mana, or conceit, and the attachment to your own knowing, the knowledge, that can also become an obstacle to it. So if we think back to Theinngu Siaroji's kind of practice, when he mentioned about this perception, sanya, the perversion of perception, sanya vaipalasa. So that one is particularly relevant to the kind of how our intellectual knowledge could become an obstacle to the practice. Yeah.
Yes, as long as the mind is conditioned, we cannot get anything. Only when it is unconditioned, then only in the pure state of that mind, we can reach that state.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was really very nice, very enlightening presentation.
Thank you.
Doctor, last question. how do you relate the pachayas to these two techniques of meditation? In a
how,
practical way?
how do you, well, how do you,
Relate.
yes, how do you relate? So that right. So well, because if we were to use the 24 Pachaya to describe our meditation practices, not particularly to this type, we can relate it through say object condition, Aramana Pachaya. Okay, for example, Aramana Pachaya here in this kind of two tradition, Theinngu and Sunlun, the breath becomes the object, yes, and then the mind is the mind takes the breath as the object and focuses on it. So you can relate it in that way. Okay. And another thing is so Upanishaya, which will be another kind of very important but in terms of the scope of what it covers. Again, Upanishaya will be we can apply it here as well. So for example, Sunlun, when he asked this person that he met at his village about whether a man like him or a farmer like him without any pariyati training, can he practice? This man became Upanishaya because he was the one who said, yes, you can practice meditation. So in that life story, that moment, the Upanishaya was working because this person actually said yes. So there are different ways to relate to their experience, their life using the 24 Pachaya. Okay.
We will conclude now. We will conclude. You want to?
Yes.
You want to express anything, Shaila, or we conclude?
I think we can conclude. Thank you so much, Samadhi.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a wonderful practical session because the pariyatti is also important. At the same time, the patipatti, and you have brought in the various meditation techniques starting from Venerable Lady Sayada, Mahasi, and also your own teacher, Venerable Siri Dhamma, and all these techniques will go a long way. If you know these techniques are available, that knowing itself is an important knowledge in Dhamma. So these are the techniques that are available in Myanmar, okay, elsewhere. That knowledge itself is very important, this knowing. One day, a prompt will come to us to go to Burma and practice these meditation techniques, okay, which are very unique. And it is a time-tested one, universal one, and it is a validated one. And if you go on this path, the liberation is guaranteed. And these techniques are very important. And we want to thank immensely Suminda, okay, for bringing Madam and connecting to us and enlightening us about all these meditational techniques, the lineage, okay, etc. Therefore, on behalf of Mahabodhi Society, as well as Mahabodhi Research Center, okay, the director, Venerable Buddha Datta Banteji, and all the Bhikkhu Sangha here, on behalf of all the Upasakas and Upasikas and all the Kalyana Mittas, we wholeheartedly thank you for your wonderful and enlightening and insightful this presentation and sharing this research knowledge, which are real. Okay, one can practice like Paramatta. These are very real. Okay, Chitta, Chetasika, Rupa, and Nibbana. These are very real. One has to practice Okay, intentionally, deliberately, and with the free will, we have to practice and attain all these attainments. Patisambhida is very important, and therefore we will conclude. And thank you very much for your wonderful presentation and sharing of knowledge, madam.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
shall we conclude?
Yes, yes. All right.
Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sotte bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada sotte bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata Sabba Sanganubhavena Sada Sotti Bhavantu Te. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Vandami, thank you, one and all.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye for now. Bye.
May this punya support Dr. to attain Nibbana in this very, very life.
Thank you, Siali. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
ဒီမှာဗျာ Good တင်ပါတယ်ဗျာတင်ပါဗျာ
ကဲပါ